Sup, freaks and geeks? Welcome to the Blade Nerd Podcast, the show where geeks meet for full contact speech and all things pop culture related. I am your host, Rick Dunn, and today we are going to talk about Love, Death, and Robots Volume 2. And I am here with a couple of my brothers in arms, Mr. Graven and Mr. Sean. And we're going to get into the things that we liked and disliked about Volume 2 of this show. So, all that being said, this is definitely something that Graven and I was introduced to in 2019 when Volume 1 came out, and Sean was just lucky enough to be able to get into, and I say lucky because he was able to binge watch Season 1 and 2, so he got to get it all in one drop. He didn't have to wait 2 years to get Season 2. So,
yes, sir.
So he got to get it all in one drop. So again, you know, what seems to always be the case with a lot of our podcasts, we have a couple, or either one or two people that have been introduced to something a little bit longer, and someone that's fairly new to whatever it is we're talking about, which I like because I think it brings a different perspective to the conversation. So that being said, let's get into Love, Death, and Robots. This is Volume 2. Which again, like I said, we waited a number of years to get into, and the only thing I'll say right off the bat is, this season or this volume definitely had less episodes than Volume 1, and I do wonder, and I've talked to Graven and Sean about this, I do wonder if the pandemic had anything to do with that, because that part to me, to be honest, just right off the bat, is the only real thing that was a letdown about this volume to me. Was just it wasn't enough as compared to the first one. So, but that being said, I'm gonna pass it off. Whoever wants to take the mic and get started. Let's talk about your likes and dislikes. Let's start with the likes, of course, like we normally do. And then we'll go from there. Who wants to take the mic? Sean, you want to go over it, or you want to go Graven?
I'll let Sean rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say is I do have an answer to that question about possibly why it might have been shorter, because I did a little research, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to address what you said earlier, I think on most of these I'll probably be the novice, right? Yeah. And I kind of like that role because it allows me to learn from you guys who are more seasoned and more like versed in the background of a lot of these things. More of the canon. So it's sort of like me coming on, I'm giving my opinion through like fresh, through fresh eyes. And then you guys kind of knock it out the box with more of the substance and the background and the history behind stuff. So, that's one thing why I enjoy these discussions, because it's like I'm learning as well. Mm-hmm. So as far as the overall consensus about the Season 2, now you've been telling me about this since it came out for 2 years. You're like, you need to watch Love, Death, and Robots. And, life takes over, you get busy. It was definitely on the queue. And then Season 2 dropped. Here we are in 2021. And you were like, look, man, just check out an episode or two. From the time I watched the first episode of Season 2, I was hooked. So in the past 2 days, I knocked out 2 seasons, which, again, you miss out, right? When you don't know what you don't know.
Now, that being said, real quick, let me jump in, because we'll let everybody else who's watching this know that I told Sean to watch Season 2 first, before watching Season 1, just because I feel like, and I know Graven agrees with me, that would be, for him, it would have been a better introduction into the show. Just because it's just obvious. Season 1 had less episodes, it had less going for it, and I think Season 2 rather, and I think Season 1 was just a candy store of things. So I think it was a better introduction for him, having seen it that way versus the way me and Graven saw it. But,
right, and I was just going to touch on that, right? Yeah. Like, so you recommended I watch Season 2 first, not only for the shorter episodes, but also because you felt that if I watched Season 1 and then I watched Season 2, it would probably be a tremendous letdown. Now, definitely agree with that, but not to such a huge extent. So I really, really like Season 2 as well. And just to sort of answer your question, right? Why was it so short? And I think the general consensus is Season 2 wasn't as good as Season 1, and I think the main reason for that was it was sort of cut less than half. You're talking about 18 to 8. Netflix did sort of an experiment from this report that I heard. I can't remember if it was like IG Network or what IGN Network or whatever.
IGN, yeah.
But they said that Netflix did sort of an algorithm test, and so certain episodes. If you notice, this is not episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. So they basically scrambled episodes in different regions. So your first episode watching could have been Pop Squad. And then my first episode watching could have been The Tall Grass. So they mixed it up, right, for season 1. And what was determined was that the attention span of people binging started to trail off after episode 8. So I guess now that they're coming out with season 2, they realize that 8 episodes is the ideal number of episodes to binge watch this series. So I don't know if that's a definitive reason why, but it would explain sort of why they cut the season in half. In my opinion, that's a huge mistake because season 1 got such acclaim and such praise, right? Why would you cut it in half? And but we're living in a day and age, and it's very comparable to Love, Death, and Robots. We're living in an age of numbers and algorithms and ratings and computer testing and stuff like that. So that hopefully might be able to explain it. What I'll say about the series is my first impression overall, and hopefully we get to talk about some of season 1 too, right? Included in this. This is a display of true creativity for a series, for a show, for entertainment purposes. And it might be a little weird for some people or whatever, but I think what we've been talking about in previous episodes is we would like for the creators of content to just, let their vision be seen, okay? Mm-hmm. And to me, in an age of like remakes and everybody's trying to remake, whether it be Transformers or, every single thing, G.I. Joe, everything that we grew up with in the 80s, this is like real, true content. And I know some of this stuff is, from books or whatever, but in terms of live motion picture, I haven't seen stories necessarily like this. I mean, there was a few that were kind of similar. Like, for instance, there was the one space episode where in season 1 where she had to rip off her arm. That reminded me of Gravity, the Sandra Bullock movie. Mm-hmm. So there's some resemblances here and there, but this is true content. It seems like the artists have a freedom to create really graphic, raw, vivid stories. Like no holds barred, whether it be male nudity, female nudity, where it's extreme graphic violence. You're free to express that, right? They were free to express that, and I think the audience. If you treat the audience like adults, you treat them like grown-ups and they'll respond in kind, right? I feel like every single episode, every single short could be made its own movie. And that's very rare, that each of these standalone shorts can be made into its own film. You could expand on the plot of any of these and drag this out for 2 hours and you could just take all my money, honestly, right? I love the different styles of animation. You had, two-dimension, 2D. You had photoreal motion capture, and there was one especially. It was the Life Hutch episode with Michael B. Jordan. Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was actually him or was it like sort of like another sort of animated motion picture capture kind of deal.
Motion cap, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of threw me off. There were times, depending on what lighting he was in, I was like, oh no, that's him. He's really acting. I was like, no, it's not. It's something else. So I thought that was kind of cool. There's something to be said about these short videos, and I know this is going to come up later, so I just want to bring it up real quick. And we got into a debate last time I think about this, which is the attention span of the viewing audience, and I think that people are disappointed because. You could knock out a season in a matter of, 2 hours, maybe, right? A little over 2 hours, over 2 hours. If you're watching the first one, clearly over 2 hours. Yeah. But this second one, you could have knocked out easily before 2 hours, right? But I feel like people respond to these short kind of hits, and then they get to move on. And again, I don't have a problem with a long movie. We talked about this before. I don't have a problem with a 3-hour movie, 4-hour movie. But this viewing public, this day and age, with the attention spans waning, there's something to be said about this knocking it out the box with that, right? The other major topic I think we should talk about later on is, it's sort of like when we were talking about the Picard series, or other movies or TV series where people feel like they're being preached to, or it's highly politicized, or like, the new generation of Star Trek or whatever. You're watching and you're being entertained, and there's a theme to some of these episodes. Not to mention there's an overall theme with the series itself in terms of, technology, human nature, death, murder, how we value life, how we treat the planet. There's these broad themes with the series overall, but then because it's so mixed up and jumbled, you're taking all of this in, and you're not even realizing that this is teaching you something. Okay? So there's something about the artfulness in that, right? So I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. I love the fact that, and I'm coming to the end here, don't worry. I love the fact that there are certain episodes, that just drop you off in the middle of an action sequence. And there's something to be said about good storytelling. Good storytelling doesn't always have to be, this long setup, and then you finally get to the end, because everything comes together. Now that's good too.
Right.
But, there were times when I was, it just drops you in the middle and you're like, what's going on here? And, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I figure out the relationship between these two people. Oh, this person is this person's mentor, or this person is a loner, and this is how the story's going to go, or what's her agenda, right? And you quickly get to find that out within 10 to 12 minutes. I thought that was pretty dope. So there's something to be said about good storytelling. It could be told in a matter of minutes, all right? And I think that sort of distinguishes this series from other series.
For sure.
I kind of ramp this down to 3 tiers, right? Which is, number 1, the standout episodes, right? And I'll list mine after you talk a little bit, Greg. But tier 1 is like the real standout episodes. Tier 2 were the episodes that sort of felt a little different and out of place, but still fit, because this is a crazy kind of jumbled universe that we're in, right? And then tier 3 are the ones that give clear lessons. Like, that really just kind of, there's a montage just trying to teach you something, right? So I hope that I want to touch on those 3 tiers, and I hope that we kind of integrate some of season 1 into this too, because I feel like there's some episodes there that, we should talk about as it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
All right, Gray, what do you think?
Well, I mean, a lot of what he's saying, I do agree with for the most part with the way this has come down with this. I think with the takeaway of season 2, overall, there's a level of things I can appreciate from an artistic standpoint, and of course, we'll get into things that we don't like later in regards to this. But I can't say that overall, when you look at the overall picture of these 8 episodes, even the fact of them being a short season compared to season 1, if you will, that the creative in me really appreciated the visual aesthetics of all these episodes. That far out the gate, the one thing that Love, Death, and Robots is never going to be a lack of, and that is artistic creativity, full tilt visually. Like, we're getting to see, like what Sean said, freedom, complete and utter freedom in regards to, I think, in some levels storytelling, but in a lot of levels visualizations. This stuff we're seeing here really kind of harkens back to, and I think me and Rick spoke a little bit about this with a couple of the episodes, I would say especially with Life Hutch. It gives you that Final Fantasy Spirits Within feel, and that was a film that came out years ago that was groundbreaking for its time. It actually was so groundbreaking and so money invested heavy that it actually destroyed the studio when it really didn't do what it needed to do at the box office per se. And you fast forward to where we're at now, and to see that we have Netflix with kind of a caveat of this and seeing it kind of crunch down into these little small episodes is quite amazing, quite breathtaking to see where it was and where it is now. I think either one of us here on this show if we had our availability to be handed the clean palette of creativity to do, hey, you got the whole studio, come up with the short that you want to see that hits one of these ideas and just go for it, none of us would turn it down. None of us would be like, oh, no, I'm not going to do this. We would go full bore with it. So saying all that, no matter what people might not have loved about season 2, and even our own personal ideas of what we may have not loved about it, we have to love the fact that visually it was enticing. I enjoyed a lot of that. I agree with Sean in regards to like the tier process. You can do that. That's a good idea, because that's really what it's supposed to be about. Like, how much do these episodes impact you as a viewer? What are you taking away from it? And what do you feel like kind of was like, well, I didn't really need to see that maybe, or where was the message, so to speak? The aspect of saying which ones we loved, I know we're going to get into that, but it's really hard for me to kind of exaggerate more on what Sean said, because he wrapped it up really well as far as the strengths of what's happening here. I would think so. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's already been said, but I definitely find it interesting doing like what Sean said. He did some of the research and the idea of them saying that people's attention span trailed off after 8 episodes. What I think is interesting about that is, like, in all of the reviews and all of the conversations that I've had and that I've seen nerds in the nerd sphere on YouTube and stuff talk about, I've never heard anyone mention anything about the season being too long or having a problem watching the show. So
I agree. I haven't heard that either.
Yeah, that's news to me that they seem to have a problem. Like, I can understand it being a season and people saying I can only sit and watch 8 episodes at one sitting, and then I turned it off and came back. But why is that a problem? Like, I don't understand that being a problem.
Well, I think the data showed that after episode 8, the viewing, the density of viewers then probably trailed off after season 8. Like, people actually took a break or stopped watching for a while and then got back to the other episodes.
Well, the only reason why that would matter is if a huge portion of people watched the first 8 episodes and then stopped watching it, period. Like if they had 1.2 million that watched the first 8 and just binged it the first night that the show came out, 1.2 million people watched the first 8 episodes, and then the second round of episodes they only had like 5 million people finish the show. It's like saying that a majority of the people didn't finish watching the show. You know what I'm saying? And I don't believe that's the case. I think it'd be different if you're saying 1.2 million people watched the show opening night, and then over the course of 3 to 4 months they trailed in to finish watching the last 8 episodes over the course of whenever they had the ability to watch. You know what I'm saying? Then okay, that I can understand that, but it just.
Well, they probably thought that their study had more integrity because, remember, they scrambled the episodes. So they said it's not a matter of if people are watching certain episodes or they're trailing off after. Right, it wasn't about the episodes. It was just about the time that they sat down and the number of episodes. Right.
Yeah. Which, to me, again, I understand all of that. It makes complete sense that not everybody could sit and watch 18 episodes in one night. Not everybody has that ability. That makes complete and utter sense. The fact that they even made that a thing, to me, is what I'm trying to question. Like, why is that a thing?
That's kind of skewing.
Like, I don't even understand why that was a thing to begin with.
The other thing I didn't mention was part of the strategy was to have sort of a season 2 part 1 and season 2 part 2, and then release the first 8 episodes, and then release another, let's say, 8 to 10 episodes later on in the summer. Or maybe 4 months later. But I also heard that season 3 has been slated for 2022.
Yeah.
So that kind of defeats that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to I really go back to, I feel like the pandemic had to have a hand in some of this. You know what I'm saying? Because it would make more sense if what you said was the case. If they wanted to release half of season 1 and then release the other half You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But to make us wait number one, that's not what they're doing because they're calling it season 3, so it's not volume 2, part 2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, that's the other thing. So it's like, to me, it just
Well,
what?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, well, I think on some level this could very well be a PR spin as well. And the reason I say this, the only reason I bring it up, I understand exactly what Sean's saying with this, but Netflix could be getting a PR spin on this simply because of the pandemic, like you're saying. Because one thing we're not really touching upon is it takes a long. First and foremost, let's just look at the elephant in the room. Again, I said it once, and we'll say it again. The visualizations of these shows are breathtaking. They're
No question.
feats of beauty. You cannot tell me that these things did not take a while to create.
Yeah.
From concept to inception to creation to finalization to getting it all done. You know what I mean? And then you put a pandemic in the middle of all that, or even towards the end part of all that. It's completely understandable why, if we want to look at it from maybe a different angle, maybe look at it from that angle. Say, okay, well, they were creating all this content. They were already in the process of doing it after the success of the first season. And so they were doing this and they get hit. Maybe some of the episodes got affected time-wise, creative-wise, because of the pandemic and things that were happening. And so therefore the only way they feel like they could salvage it is maybe putting some kind of review PR spin on it with viewership, maybe, rather than saying, hey, we've been I don't know why they would do that,
I don't know
because
why
honestly, just be honest, but I mean, that might be another possibility on why they're saying these things. Because I agree with Rick. It feels like it's a false narrative for them to even try to put that up there to level to say, hey, this is the reason why, because it just doesn't make any sense to be honest with you.
It doesn't seem like something worth concentrating on.
Right.
Okay, so it'd be different if they said, so, people watch 1.2 million people watched 8 episodes, and then no one finished the season. Like the show just dropped, and that's like watching a regular TV show. You got a regular TV show like X-Files or something. The show might be great 3 or 4 episodes in, people might like it, but then the show takes a twist, and then you lose your viewership for the last half of the season, and the viewership just drops. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense. But with a show like this, it doesn't make sense because every episode is its own story. It's not a continuing storyline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the only thing about this is the time spent in one sitting, which I completely understand. But that's obvious. Yeah. No one's gonna. The majority of people are not gonna have. And the thing I should have did, I totally wish I did this. Was how long is season 1 altogether? What's the runtime of the whole season altogether?
I'll check quick.
You know what I'm saying? Because if we're having this conversation, the same conversation we had with Endgame, same conversation we had with Snyderverse, you know what I'm saying? If you put the whole thing together, how long is it in reality? And then, if you're going to tell me it's like, well, it's almost 4 hours long, okay, I can understand. But if we're pushing like 2 hours and some change, nah, B. I'm not going to buy that. It's like, y'all can't tell me that was really a problem.
But it's also how it feels, right? It's also how it feels when you're watching it.
Yeah.
So, these quick hits, these, 15, 10-minute, 16-minute hits that we're getting from these shows, it depends on the individual, right?
Of course.
I felt like a lot of these weren't long enough. Like, I wanted more.
Of course.
And there was a handful where I was like, all right, that ended, I'm good, So, again, it all depends on the feel of that,
But just like you said before, this show is not new. This is Twilight Zone. You know what I'm saying? Twilight Zone started this shit. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, Twilight Zone was the one that started this, quick hit, episodic show where all these episodes have followed their own story. There was no through line throughout a season of Twilight Zone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as far as that, absolutely.
So this is nothing new. The difference is this generation, again, just like when Twilight Zone came out, and then what happened later on, Outer Limits came out. That was a generation later. A couple generations after Twilight Zone, Outer Limits came out. You know what I'm saying? And then so we had the same thing. So again, it's just cyclical, same shit. So now this generation, we had the new Twilight Zone that came out now, and then we got this show, Love, Death, and Robots. But like you said, Sean, this show fits today. It's the quick little hits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, I don't see, that's where I come back to, where is the problem? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, again, there's only so much we can know and research, and we'll probably never
Yeah.
100% know what was going on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? As far as why
And
they
it,
decided to just go 8 episodes, but
and it also you brought up this point in previous podcasts too, Rick. It could come down to budget. It could be
yeah,
sort of a calculated formula as far as what is the budget we're allocating for this versus what we're getting back.
hmm
And they might have just decided based upon their algorithm test that it's more financially, prudent to just stick to a shorter season rather than exploding up to 18 episodes and stuff too.
well, that's true.
So it could come down to that.
That's true, and you just made me think of something else. The other aspect of this could be because Sean, said that they're bringing another volume 3 in 2022, which is next year. Maybe their idea was instead of giving them 18 episodes and making them wait 2 years,
Yeah, true.
maybe their thought
True.
was let's give them 8 episodes. Let's do because they're going to do the same amount of work. They probably put together 8 episodes for 2021, and they said let's work on 16 episodes. We're going to give them 8 in 2021 and 8 in 2022. You know what I'm saying? And then by the time we're giving them the 2022, we're already working on 2023 and so on and so that way they can give us 8 episodes every year versus making us wait 2 years to give us 18. Like maybe that's the idea.
That would make sense.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any exact numbers on the hour run times, but if you break it down, 6 to 18 minutes, let's say 18 minutes for the whole for 18 episodes, you're looking at about 324 minutes. It works out to 5 hours, 5.4 hours.
Really?
So if you're looking at that, that's being gracious. We know that every episode of season 1 was not 18 minutes, but you're looking at that as a whole. You can kind of get an idea. I'm sorry, 5 hours. That's not too hard for someone to binge.
It's not too hard, but I can't
It's not
see.
expected,
I can't
but
see
it's-
nowadays. That's a lot to ask for kids
For sure.
nowadays to in one sitting. But still, yeah. I mean, at least half of that. I mean, 8 episodes. I don't know. I mean, either way. The only thing I had a problem with was the fact that there just wasn't enough. It's like there just wasn't enough meat on the bone. I enjoyed season 2. Like we talked about before, and Graven mentioned, there was a lot of episodes that were in season 2 and in season 1 as well that have been done before. It's not like they recreated the wheel and everything that they did. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the story arcs and things have been done before, but it's just the way. I think to me, this whole show is more about visualization than it is so much about trying to create a brand new story. It's more about how can we revisualize a lot of these cool stories or these cool ideas. At least that's the way I have come to see it. And in that way, and for that reason, I like both season 1 and 2. I just wish there was more to it. It's just by the time we got done with episode 8, I was like, that's it, bro? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
I'm ready for the long haul. I'm here to sit for 5 hours. I'm good.
I want it best.
You know what I'm saying? So that was it for me personally. But
Well, here's the thing about season 2 too, and I think this is the general consensus with a lot of people too. Another reason why season 1 was superior, if you take, let's say, the 3 or 4 best episodes from season 1 and the 3 or 4 best episodes from season 2, I think you would also see sort of like a mismatch there. Because the best episodes, the handful of good, best episodes from season 1, I think are superior to season 2. It's not to say that season 2 wasn't special in its own way, but if you sort of want to equate the 2 seasons and just sort of pull out the best of each, season 1 still trumps season 2. Now, what that says to me though, because again, I saw season 2 first, and what it says to me is season 2 is still far better than most content that's out right now. Far better. But if we're comparing it to, and we're going to give our grades, of later on in the show. But if we're comparing it to season 1, I mean, season 1 to me was something special.
Yeah.
Of course, it borrows from, like you said, everything is cyclical. So it's going to borrow from the Twilight Zone. It's going to borrow from certain books. We were talking earlier, Graven, about Stephen King. Some of the Stephen King stories were borrowed from. So yeah, there's going to be that. sometimes art imitates art, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of putting this together into a series like this, I thought was really special. And, you know, I guess that segues into, I guess, you know, Rick, like, what stood out to you mostly in terms of episodes and stuff for season 2?
The episodes that stood out to me in season 2 the most. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite episode, but I can't knock the first episode. Like the first episode with the killer iRobot thing.
Auto customer service.
Yeah, auto customer service, man. That shit was funny.
Automatic customer service.
That shit was funny.
Yeah, that was real funny.
You know what I'm saying? I loved everything about it. I loved the ending where it was like, you know, at this point you will wander the earth and you will be hunted forever and all this shit. And it was just hilarious. It was, you know, but as far as like, I think the one that stands out the most to me, I liked Snow. I liked that episode. I would definitely love to see more of that. Like I can watch a whole like there's a lot of meat on the bones for that one.
Sort of a Dune element to that one.
Yeah,
right?
it had a lot of a Dune element to it. I mean, a lot of the shows, I mean, the other one that I like, Ice, had a Dune.
Or even Blade Runner. Yeah.
Ice had a Dune element to it as well. That one was, I like that one as well. But Ice and Dune.
You like Pop Squad too, right?
Which one was that?
With the
that was the population control.
With the population control.
Oh no! See that one. Hold on. Yeah, okay. I'm horrible with the names. That one was definitely really interesting. Now again, it's been done before. You know what I'm saying? Like that one borrowed from a lot of different stories. I mean, it just I mean, if you go back just recently, it was Bright was another one that they borrowed from, as well as.
I got a Minority Report, like a Minority Report feel from that one too, with Tom Cruise. Yeah. Like just the world that they were in, sort of had that Minority Report feel to it.
Yeah. I mean, it had a little bit of Minority Report. I mean, it did with the idea of the way that they had the law keepers, the guys that kept the law. But it was very Altered Carbon, as far as the way the society was put together. That one was really deep. And then when we talk about when Sean brought up, when we talk about the idea of societal situations and things that represent society around us, and you know, I think it's really interesting that a lot of people will watch this show and watch that episode and not realize the message that's being sent to them. You know what I'm saying? Not realizing that they're being teached in that episode. They're being preached to in that episode heavy-handedly. Like that episode was heavy. You know what I'm saying? With the way that episode panned out. I really did like that episode a lot. That was a deep one. And then my wild card episode, you know, which wasn't amazing, but my wild card episode was the tall grass one. I thought that was hilarious. It was
the tall grass.
It was more funny to me just because of the fact that the guy did everything the train told the guy
the conductor
told him not to do, and he specifically went and did exactly what he told him not to do. You know, it's like
that's society right now.
I mean,
that's human nature too.
I mean, I guess if you want to call it human
curiosity
nature.
kills the cat always.
Yeah, with these types of shows, it's curiosity kills the white person, because they always make these. I'm sorry, man, but it's the truth. So that was funny to me. And of course Graven's favorite, you know, which is the Santa Claus episode.
All through the house.
Yeah. All through the house, yeah.
That shit had me laughing my ass off, but it was one of those things that had my jaw on the floor because it wasn't anything groundbreaking. If you're into horror, and I'm not into horror, but I know more about horror just from knowing Graven and Monica. So if you're into the horror aspect of anything, like if you know anything about horror, this is not groundbreaking. This show, it was more of a I didn't think they would do that type thing. Right. Like that's the only thing about that was like, wow, I didn't think they would do that. That's fucking awesome. That shit had me. I was just sitting there like, I can't believe they're doing this right now. That was the whole episode with that one. But that's me. What about you, Sean? What was your favorite standout ones?
I thought 3 episodes stood out the most, and I thought that the tall grass, I think, stood out. I think that Snow in the Desert stood out. And I think the unquestioned best episode, and this is the good part about this series, right, is it all varies. It depends on an individual.
Yeah.
But I think the number one standout from season 2 was Pop Squad, unquestioned. With the population control, with him killing the kids, sort of like this world that they were in was so similar to like Elysium.
Yeah.
The movie with Matt Damon. And it's sort of like you had the trudges down below, and then you had the people who lived up in the skyscrapers who, rejuvenated themselves so they could live forever, and they sacrificed having children. There was one line in there where, and of course the main character, I forgot his name, the main protagonist, he's conflicted, and he follows the woman. At the toy antique store, he follows her to her shack, and he realizes there's a child there. They get into a discussion, and he says, why are you doing this? Like, why are you choose to raise this child? And she is such a powerful line. She says, because I'm not so in love with myself, and the other thing she said was, I get to see my life through this child's eyes. Okay, now, I thought the dialogue was great, but at the same time, I sort of had an issue with that too, in a way, in a sense, because it had me having a dialogue with myself, because I would make the argument that some people have children out of selfishness, right? Some people have children because, I want to see how our kids are going to look, without, thinking to themselves about, how am I going to take care of this child, or do I have enough resources to make sure that I can, in this crazy mixed up world that doesn't have much opportunities for certain marginalized groups in society, like, I'm going to bring a child into this world, and I don't have any resources to make sure this child is going to be healthy, wise, disease-free kind of thing. So I had that internal dialogue with myself watching that episode. But at the same time, what they brought out also was, it had me questioning for a second, maybe I should have had children, maybe that's something I should consider, because you get to see the world in a different way. And so that sort of inner monologue was going on with me. As far as like the tall grass, I thought the tall grass subtly spoke about wealth in a changing world. And I thought the use of the steam train, like if you notice, he's reading the newspaper, and it's like, the economy is doing well, and development is at an all-time high, and they're taking a steam train through to this sort of like this grassy area, this no man's land. Yeah, and it's sort of like at the end when the conductor rescues him, he's like, who do you think these people are? Who are these people? What are they? And he goes, I don't know. Maybe they're, people. I choose to believe that they're probably people who are left behind from an older time. I mean, you could make the argument there that you're being preached to as well, that these are the marginalized groups of society that are left out of this, capitalist economy, right? So I thought that was a very interesting take, and I think that's why that episode stood out. And as far as like snow in the desert, I mean, for so many reasons, like just the fact that this dude's testicles had this like healing, resuscitating ability, that they wanted to literally chop off his testicles, right? But I thought that there's some interesting elements to that story, which he traveled all that way to get authentic strawberries from Earth, right? So they were on a different, and that's the other thing I loved about this series, is that the element that they're on different worlds. So one story might be in a different galaxy, another story might be in a different multiverse, right? So he traveled all that way to get these rare strawberries from Earth. I thought that was kind of cool. And also, if you notice that when he was walking by, I guess water was a rare commodity, and they had this harsh punishment for water thieves, where they kind of locked them up and tortured them. And just the fact that they needed a special tent for the sun, just to show you that, the proximity to that star, that sun, was so different. I thought those three stories really stood out for those reasons, man. It was incredible. I could watch those again.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot. Again, there was a lot. If you really dug deep into each one of those, you could find a story or a movie that's done something similar, or has pieces of each one of those stories that have been done before, but they all do stand out in their own way, and I would love to see more of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would definitely love to see more of the snow in the desert. Like, just following that guy. He's been alive for centuries. You know what I'm saying? And you know, how long he's been running around the universe. You know, he talked about his wife beforehand and all that stuff. So there's a lot of story there, and that would be great to watch. But what about you, Graven? What are the top three that stand out for you?
Top three for me is, of course, what you said earlier was All Through the House. When I watched the whole series here, that one I literally started clapping because I was like, yes, this is amazing. And the reason I say it's amazing is because when you've watched as many horror movies and horror type of shorts, student films, full feature-length films as I have, sometimes the most simplistic idea that's never been touched upon is the strongest. And that's what we see here with this one. It's very simple. It's very psychological, and it very much plays on the trope of yesteryear of real fairy tales and what it comes from. You know, we talked about this briefly before with the fact that what people don't realize is most fairy tales, Alice in Wonderland, The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, all those things, Grimm's fairy tales, those all came from a place of fear and horror to scare children into doing certain things that they should be doing, the right things, and not, or there's something bad's going to happen. Of course, on top of it, let's not forget to level all the additional stuff that was on a lot of those things with, like horrors of society with the rape and violence and all that. That came from that too. And even from Native American culture in folklore, there's a lot of folklore that is all about keeping children at bay and not going out away from the tribe and going into the forest and seeing things they shouldn't be seeing or interacting with creatures they shouldn't be interacting with. And then to take something as pure and as close to the heart as Christmas and that holiday and kind of merging the feel of Krampus a little bit, the idea of Santa Claus being something different than what you expected, and then making it truly horrifying, and then making it that not only is it horrifying, but it actually is good. And it plays both sides to that persona, and I love that. I love that about this. As quick as it was, you got a richness of what that universe could be. I wanted to know more about it, and the fact that it just really proves its points. Like, like the little kid said at the end, it's like, well, I hate to see what would happen if we weren't good, or we didn't, right. That was amazing. So that one's number one, was my favorite of all of them, and it's not because any of the other ones didn't hold any better special value, just that was really strong for me personally. The creature look, the feel, all of that really good. Second one would be Pop Squad as well. I really did enjoy Pop Squad, not because it went over and above what we've seen before, because we've seen all these different types of elements, like Rick had said, and even what Sean was talking about, but it's just the fact that we're able to wrap all of that well up into another perception. It took all these elements and they put it all into another perception of delivery for us to question humanity, where we're at, who we are, what we're doing with ourselves. Because you got to think about it. I want to go back to what Sean was saying about his observations of it, and even him saying, well, made me even think and take a look as far as having kids and what have you. People don't seem to understand that it's become very easy, and I use that word really loosely. It's become very easy for people to procreate, for kids, and to bring a life into the world. And then not think about, well, how is it going to impact them? I think sometimes you even have to simplify it more than just materialistic, like being able to provide for them, what world you're bringing them into, all these things. The reality of it is, when you have a child, you're bringing a consciousness into life, into being. When you strip away this mechanical, bioorganic mechanical suit that we're walking around in, you are bringing in consciousness. So you are taking two people and merging your consciousness to bring a consciousness into this world. All right, it's not even about the physicality of it all. What are you doing? Have you really taken that in consideration, that when you're creating life and bringing that into the world, that you are actually choosing to put something in this world that is conscious and alive and has a feeling and has consequences? And what are you going to do about that? And everything else just comes right after all that. The material aspect, what world we're living in, what society, what religion, what viewpoints, what money, all that's into it. But I think that's great because it will make people think. And so artistically, it was great. Emotionally, it was great. I do want to see more of that. I'd love to see more to see how his viewpoint changed from that moment and what happened to him. So that was good.
That's a great point, by the way.
Thanks, man. And Snow in the Desert, again, you guys have postulated everything on that one that I could say. I think it's always nice. I've always enjoyed having a character be brought into the forefront that even though we know he can't be killed, he can't be this, he can't be that, he's been around for so long, all that exposition's been done already. We don't have to worry about building that with a character like this. We can just get the meat and potatoes of this person's universe and where they live, and therefore there's no rules. So as the viewer, you can fantasize as much with the character as far as where we're going to go with this, and I think that's what was strong about that episode. Again, everything you guys have said has been great. So my top 3 are those, again, All Through the House, Pop Squad, and Snow in the Desert. But not to be remiss, there are some other ones that I enjoyed there too, but those are my top 3.
I mean, I enjoyed all the episodes. I'm sure Sean enjoyed all the episodes as well.
I mean, definitely. Real quick though, just the All Through the House episode. I mean, you said a lot, so I'm not going to get into the all the specifics about it. What's interesting is it's one of the shortest episodes too, so that's real quick. Like it makes the point real fast and it moves on, right? Yeah. If you would indulge me real quick, there are 3 episodes of this season that I thought were sort of different, only because the title of this is Love, Death, and Robots. I think they should have added monsters to the title in some way. And there were some episodes to me, especially, and this point is proven even more in season 1 because you have more episodes, where these episodes are more centrically focused on monsters versus actual, the robots or the love or the death or kind of thing. Well, maybe a mixture of that too, but they should have put monsters in the title, right? So the 3 that I'm thinking of are All Through the House, The Drowned Giant, and Ice. And the thing I was going to say about All Through the House, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Graven. It's a movie called The Ritual. It's where 4 friends, they go into the forest. One of them gets injured or whatever. The monster in that movie looked crazy. Like, it's really original kind of thing. And that's what this monster kind of reminded me of when I saw it with the hands at the mouth and everything. I was like, that reminds me of that movie with the forest with the 4 friends. So I had to look that up, right? Yeah. As far as Ice, I thought Ice, and again, it still fits within this universe, but I just thought that these 3 kind of were a little odd compared to, like, going back and watching 8 episodes and then add another 18. I have like maybe I think 4 from season 1 that I thought were kind of strange, that kind of stood out for stranger reasons. So as far as Ice, the animation was brilliant. I love the dark use of lines with the characters and everything like that, with their features and everything. I had to sort of watch it again because I watched it the first time and I didn't get it. And I said, well, how does this fit into, Love, Death, and Robots, right? Like there were really no robots or anything. What was telling was that apparently some of these young people were enhanced in some way.
Yeah, the metahumans.
And so the two brothers were there was sort of this unwritten, unspoken competition, at least that one of them had, and sort of this resentment towards the other one. And then for them to go out and for the one brother who was enhanced or whatever to fake an injury to get the most out of his brother in that moment so that his brother could build his confidence, I thought was kind of cool. But the overall scope of the episode, like the dialogue and the feel and the animation, was very unique, right? And the drowned giant, I don't know, Rick is gonna disagree with me on this. I thought was an amazing episode, but to me, this is one of those episodes that preached to you because it was pretty much just all exposition, right? I think me and Rick agreed that this episode definitely didn't feel like it fit at all, right? However, it was like a twisted version of Gulliver's Travels, right? Yeah. Except the giant was dead, and it just spoke to me human nature. When I was watching the show, I just wrote down human nature. Because it's our nature to have something as a spectacle, right. And then we sort of start to capitalize upon that. We start to neglect it. Then we start to cut it off and start to sell it for parts, or create a market around this thing. And then after some time, we just kind of neglect it, like we forget about it, like it wasn't anything special. So it was a very slow episode compared to what we're used to. Like, for instance, what was this? There was an episode, Sonny's Edge, in season 1. Yeah. If you compare Sonny's Edge, that episode in season 1, to like the Drowned Giant, you're like, how do these two even coexist under the same umbrella? So it was very slow, it was very methodical, very expository. But I think that episode stood out for those particular reasons too.
Yeah, I think with Drowned Giant, I think it did actually. I think this one would go in the category of death and life to some degree. I think it was a love letter to death and how society views it. And I think that's kind of what was going here. I think it was exposition heavy because of that. I think it was trying to get the viewer to look at things both on the factual reality of it all and what it really was. And if something's bigger visually, we can see how this is created and how it transcends to our societal norms. And that's what I kind of saw here. So I think it was a kind of a love letter to death with the attention to detail, so to speak. I think it was fitting within the season because of that. But again, I also don't think it was kind of needed. Beautiful film. I just don't think it was needed. I think it kind of took everyone out of what the momentum of this series is, but it definitely was an art film to its degree. I also want to say this: I don't think Rick's talked about this, and I don't know. I'm not sure if Sean, if you're aware of it or not, but I did want to kind of make this point because of this: is that Rick got me started on something a while back. He was on the pulse of this for a while. He's been on the pulse with it for a while. This kind of lets me believe that Netflix was trying to go for a feel of the YouTube channel Dust, the sci-fi channel type thing. I think Netflix was trying to catapult and basically capture some of that idea with this, with them working.
I can
on
see that,
this. And I think this is great because I think Dust has very much trained an audience that you can create great content from the social norms and place it out there for people to see that are gems, living gems that you don't know are out there, but they're very much being encapsulated in a place for people to gravitate toward. And I think this is what Love, Death, and Robots is. And I think that Dust should be getting a little more credit than what it is, because I see a lot of parallels here. I could be wrong. It's I know what Rick thinks.
No, Dust in another channel called Oats. Oats is what's his name?
Neil Blomkamp
Studio Oats.
Love Oats too.
That's another channel. Those two channels are like my top sci-fi channels on YouTube. They're fucking amazing. And if you like the Twilight Zone-esque aspect of things, the short story sci-fi, then you go to those channels and you're swimming in it. But for me, the Drowned Giant, I think where it fits into the show overall is what Sean said about it. The humanity aspect of it, speaking to humanity, and I think that's the part that has it fit in. Because I mean, if you look at the Pop Squad, you look at all these other ones. The obviously the unified string of all of it is where humanity fits into all of these things. The Love, Death, and Robots. It was always an idea. Was always the idea of. It's like another way of talking about cyberpunk. You know what I'm saying? Like Love, Death, and Robots was taking Twilight Zone and Black Mirror and all that stuff and wrapping it in a sci-fi, cyberpunky, pop culture, burrito
world.
You know what I'm saying? And in that way, it kind of encapsulates everything that goes with it, which also involves monsters. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the idea of the monsters being there is kind of an unwritten obviousness to it. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it as what it was, the whole thing of it being a cyberpunky sci-fi thing. But the only thing that I felt like about the Drowned Giant was that, because to me, like what Graven said, is one aspect of the idea of that episode. Speaking about humanity and different things. I looked at it more, which I think Sean was also saying as well. I looked at it more from a perspective of look at how. It was almost like this body's lying on the ground. As a body decays, it's overcome by the bacteria and the bacteria and things that are inside the body that are eating their way out, as well as the bacteria and things outside of the body that are decomposing the body. I looked at the humans as bacteria. You know what I'm saying? Like we just overrun this huge thing. We didn't respect it at all. We had no respect for it. There was no respect for this thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The moment people got an opportunity, they ran and jumped on it and played on it like it was an amusement park. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no respect for this being that had died. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that was the thing that stood out to me, was a lack of respect, for another human being or for another being, basically. And then how it showed those steps, like Sean said. For at one moment, it was like the talk of the town. The next moment, people were using it as an amusement park. The next moment, people were cutting pieces off of it and taking them as mementos. You know what I'm saying? And then the next moment, people forgot about it, like it never existed. It was just it literally turned into a myth. The guy said, like the giant's penis ended up in a freaking circus sideshow, and they said it was a whale penis. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like we just literally forgot about it, like it never existed. So to me, that was that. Which again, I think it was a great episode. But for me, when I think Love, Death, and Robots, when I envision shows involved in that, I'm envisioning something that's science fiction, that's involving something more fast paced, a little more, I don't know. It wasn't as sci-fi for me. You know what I'm saying? And that, I guess that can be, anyone can say what's sci-fi for them. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's perspective based as well. I guess when I think sci-fi, I think something more along the lines like Snow in the Desert and Blade Runner.
Something intergalactic.
Yeah, I'm thinking along those lines. So for that, it didn't give that to me, which doesn't take away from it. It was a great story, but so. Interesting. It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation on that episode. I think that was interesting. I like that. The fact that we were able to, all three of us, pull what we pulled from that was pretty cool.
Right. Absolutely.
But now, going into, as far as things that that we didn't like as much, like I don't know if there's anything that immediately stood out to people as far as what they didn't like.
I don't think, the premise of the question is usually straightforward when we get into this, like, right, what are some aspects we didn't like versus like, but there's nothing really that I didn't like, just honestly speaking. What I would say is, compared to, you were very accurate when you said that season 1, brought something totally different to the table in terms of just overall watchability and action and suspense and just the intensity of season 1. Some of those episodes, man, I think were just more memorable. So I feel like if we had let's say we had a full season of 18 for this, I think Pop Squad could hold its own I think Pop Squad and Snow in the Desert could have probably held its own with some of the best in season 1.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think the other 6 episodes were good, but they're sort of in that middle tier of you have in season 1, to me, you had like maybe 3 or 4 episodes that were like brilliant, like you can't get better than this, and then you had like maybe let's say 10 of those episodes that are like in that middle tier, which are great quality. And then you have, the rest of the, handful, 3 or 4, whatever, who are like, it's good, but, if those are minus from the season, it would be okay. So I think the majority of this season was sort of in that middle tier. and maybe those 2 episodes, maybe 3, you can make the case that actually really stood out to me that could hold its own in season 1. So I wouldn't say there was anything I didn't like, but just comparing it to its peer, it's just it fell short a little bit. I wouldn't say a great deal, but just it fell short a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with me, when I first initially saw season 2, knowing that I'd already seen season 1 a while ago, I think when you think about it more, initially when I watched it, my knee-jerk reaction was I was very disappointed. I was extremely disappointed in season 2. And I think I know the reason that is because we were given upper echelon with season 1. That's what we were.
Right.
We were showcased the potential, and then we got something that fell very short of that. And it's not because of the visual. The visuals did not fall short of that in season 2. Even some of the story themselves did not fall short. But when I have to look at it all as a series, as a season, and I'm looking at this, when I'm judging it, I'm judging it I don't want to judge it, but when I'm making a critical review of it, I'm looking at it from the big picture here. And season 2 just did not feel like it was given its worth. It just felt like it was just kind of shoddily put together. And only reason, and again, I'm saying this because I'm not saying that the quality was not phenomenal. It was good on the quality level of it, beautiful. Hands off to the animators, hands off to the storytellers who were trying to work with their vision. I do not have a problem with that. I just feel like there was a miss here. And the reason I'm saying that is because of, I think what we talked about earlier is, and I talked with Rick about this in detail, we're at a place where you're going to find things that kind of come up that we've seen already. We've seen it done already. But the majority of these episodes, I would say the majority of these season 2 episodes had been done before. We've seen elements of this before. So there was nothing extremely groundbreaking in areas. There were groundbreaking episodes, but some of them just kind of fell in the same vein of things we'd seen before. And if I'm looking at that, that's where my excitement started to dull. So when I saw things like, all through the house, even Pop Squad, Ice, the artistic value of what Ice was. I could see Rick having a team draw some of his stuff up like that. I could see Rick directing that episode. Those are things I'm loving about. I could see that. But I feel like we kind of sacrificed the potential just to get something out. And that's where I saw with this when you compare it to season 1. If I'm not comparing it to season 1 and it's just a standalone of what we've talked about, we spoke about some of the very high points of it. So I can say it's a great series. Do I want to see more? Absolutely. Would I say that this is a complete travesty? No, it's not. It's not completely horrible. It's and it is above average. It's going to be above average for several factors.
Right.
But if I'm taking away the animation greatness, if I'm taking away the visualizations we've seen and some of the stories we've seen, and just graded on looking at what it looks like now and what we saw, it was a little lackluster in certain areas. But that's the way I feel about it. Again, some strong stuff there. I don't hate the season at all. I want to see more. Bravo that we even have it for that. So
yeah, I think like what you said. I think it's hard because, again, the season 1 thing makes it harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, as you were talking, I was thinking about it myself. I was like, if this was the first season, if we never had a season 1, if this was it, if this is what we were first introduced to, right. It would, honestly, it would be a different conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And,
absolutely.
Of course, there are things that happen in this season that have been done before. But I think because it was the first time something like this had been done. It was the first time we'd seen something packaged the way it was packaged like this. I think you give it more of the benefit of the doubt because it's like, this is awesome. This is something new. This is something different. We've never seen this before. And now that it's a season 2, we always expect things to be better than the last one that we've seen.
Right. Sophomore jinx.
Yeah, you're always going to come down a lot harder on the next one because it's like, damn it, I want this to be better than the last time. So yeah, it's a tough one, man. I agree with Sean. I agree with both of you. I don't think there's anything I didn't like about the season 1 or season 2, for that matter. There were just ones that stood out more than others, and I would have loved for there to be more of a season 2. But again, like we said earlier on in the conversation, there's obvious reasons for why things have changed, and we'll find out what that is at some point exactly. You know what I'm saying? What the actual reasons are. But the fact that we don't have to wait 2 years to get another season, I'm not mad at that idea. And hopefully next season will be better, and hopefully it'll be they'll have some different things. I mean, listen, man, at the end of the day, we all know it's hard to do something original nowadays.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's really hard to do something that you haven't seen before. So you know what I'm saying. So hopefully they can come up with next season and be something that just blows our brains away and we just never seen it before. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad at them just doing really good content. Just give me good content. Give me good stories. If it's something I've seen a little bit before, make the visuals amazing, which they always do. You know what I'm saying? They always make the visuals amazing. So at the end of the day, I think each of us will always walk away being satisfied. You know what I'm saying? Because of that being, I think that's what this is all about. I think this is all about the visuals. This is all about artistry. Love, Death, and Robots, because they could have easily told these stories live action. Like we've had Black Mirror, we have Twilight Zone. This shit's been done before. You know what I'm saying? So what about this makes it different? It's all about the animation. It's all about the fact that we get these different studios that are doing these stories. Like I think that's the big thing too. The studios that are working on each episode, getting to do their takes on things and show what they're able to do. So I think that I'm looking forward to season 3. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Netflix go one further, and even based on viewing numbers or polls, since apparently they're good at doing those things, I'd love to see them take and find out what are some of the top 3 of maybe season 1 or top 5 of season 1, and let's get some feature films out of it. These are pitch films. These are little things where they're proof of concept. So let's bring the viewers in on a ride to go deeper into these universes. I don't see a problem with that if it does well and you can see that it's done well.
That's an awesome idea because these are Netflix originds. So they have the ability, if they want to take something from
free reign.
If they want to take any one of these stories and make a full-fledged movie out of it, that would be awesome.
They could create a universe out of this. They could take certain episodes that sort of fit and mesh together, and just kind of combine them in the same universe. As far as this is what's happening on this planet, this is what's happening in this planet, this is what's happening in space. So they have a lot of freedom to explore with this.
For lack of a better association, this is their own DCU, MCU type environment. I mean, they bought Miller World and all that for some of those types of superhero ideas, but they have it all right here. This is a sandbox.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and they should take that and move forward.
I mean, just like the one we haven't talked a whole lot about, Sean mentioned it earlier, and this is one of the ones that I definitely felt like I want. Not even that I want, I feel like needs to have more fleshed out was the Michael B. Jordan episode. I mean that it was a great episode. It was a great scene. It was visually stunning, visually, like beyond stunning.
Especially his flashback of the war with the aliens in space.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. There's so much meat and story there. Like I want that. Give me more of that, please. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I want to know who they're fighting. I want to know where they're coming from. Are they from Earth? Are they from another planet? Like what's going on? There's so much there that could be. Put together for a full live action movie. Oh yeah,
you could expand on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Even though now that I think about it, I don't know if either one of you's seen the movie Kin. Have you seen that movie yet?
Either one? I wanted to watch it. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, you definitely need to watch it. It's a cool movie. It's not amazing, but it's a pretty fun little flick. But it's Michael B. Jordan. I think he executive produced it, and he was behind the production. I think it's part of his production company. But that movie could tie into this short story if they wanted to do that. And I mean, I won't give it away for you, but when you see it, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So if they really wanted to make that movie, this short part of that movie, it would completely fit.
Like interwoven into this one.
It completely fits.
They could also interweave Beyond the Aquila Rift, episode 2 and season 1. though they could intermingle this one in. That's part of the outer horizon line.
Oh man, that one was extraordinary, man. Like honestly, that one actually scared me.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I had to watch something else before I went to sleep because the way the visually the way that spider looked, man, at the end. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was surreal. That was surreal.
Nice. All right. Well, all right. Well, I mean, I think the rating is the biggest thing right now. What if you had to give it a rating? Like we do the A to F, and in between. What would you rate this volume 1? And since we're talking about it, because obviously, like I said before to you guys, Bloody Nerd wasn't around for volume 1. Mm-hmm. So, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Let's give a rating for volume 2 and give a rating for volume 1 if you want to.
Okay.
So, I'll give a rating. My rating from volume 2. Oh man, I would probably go. It's hard, man. I'm either a B- or C+.
Well,
I'll go B- just because I feel like the graphic work was really fucking phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? Like honestly, I would if we weren't talking about the animation, I would have to give it a C or C+. But the animation in itself, to me was just so phenomenal, and to think about all the work that was put into that, I would give it a B-. Yeah, I would have to give it a B. As far as season 1, I mean that's an A. I would give it an A. Season 1 for me personally. So who's gonna go next, Graven?
Great.
Yeah, I would say on season 2, if I'm looking at it as a whole without the visualizations being in that category 100%, just kind of looking at it as all, I would say probably a C for me. Yeah. If I was looking at the great work that's been done by the animation teams and the writers and creators in that, I would say probably a B- or so right there for me. But in season 1, I would just say A+, because not because I'm trying to make it better than what people might realize it is, but we got to look at it for what it was. It was season 1. It came through the roof. It gave us the ability to see a lot of fresh content, even with a few that were there that were not so fresh, but still amazingly done. It opened up a whole new viewing idea. And a whole box of gifts, if you know what I mean, to filming and to pitching, and so I think that's A+ all the way around with that one.
Okay.
So,
all right, Sean.
Well, that's interesting. I've been going back and forth with season 2 rating myself, but I think you said it best earlier, Rick, and I actually was going to bring it up, which is if season 1 dropped first, we would be having a totally different conversation. Mm-hmm. If I'm judging it against everything content that's out right now, I would give it an A-. Mm-hmm. But when you mix in season 1 and the precedent that it set, and sort of like the shortness of the season and everything like that, I give it a solid B+ for season 2. As far as season 1, Graven brought this up just now. I was shaking my head a little bit. I don't give A+ unless something fundamentally has the ability and the potential to change the way we watch movies, right? Like it's extraordinary, like Robert De Niro on Taxi Driver, Godfather 1 and 2, that type of thing, and countless others too. That some of my personal favorites. But I'd give season 1 a solid A. And the only reason it doesn't get an A+ is because I feel like maybe 3-4 of those episodes weren't as, and again, it's still great viewing, right? But I think 3 or 4 episodes there were a little bit less than on the quality scale. If they took out maybe 3 episodes from season 1, it would absolutely get an A+ for me. So I feel like some of the episodes dragged it down a little bit, so I give it a solid A.
I get that, yeah, it's fair.
Okay. It's funny because you take 3 episodes out of season 1, and maybe add 3
And then
episodes from season 2 into season 1,
season 2.
and then
There you go.
you might have perfection there. You
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely.
but either way, we'll get a season 3, volume 3 next year, which will be awesome. Hopefully, we'll get one every year. That would be great if that's the way this is
Great.
going.
Right, right. Well, if the response and the critics keep responding the way they are, I think we will. It's been getting some good
I
responses.
mean,
all around. So,
it can't. Yeah, I mean, it can't get. Well, I guess it's up to them to lose. Let's put it that way. It's up to the producers and Netflix or whatever to lose this fight, especially now that they've lowered it down to 8 episodes to supposedly make it easier for people to consume. So now it's like, all right, now you have no excuses. Now I guess from this point on, it's up to y'all to lose this battle. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
hopefully they keep coming with great concepts and ideas, and I'm sure the animation will always be great, but we'll see.
yeah.
But all right, well, that being said, I think we pretty much covered everything with Love, Death, and Robots. I think the next thing you guys will see us here on the Blade Nerd podcast talking about will be what is it, Army of the Dead?
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, Army of the Dead. I think
Yes, sir.
you'll see the 3 of us talking about that here within the next week or so. So please come back and check us out. Join the conversation in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, all the good shit. And come back and check us out, man. We're going to be here again, and we'd love to have you guys. All right? Thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for joining me. Talk soon.